Okay, class, we're going to be working with chapter 9.7b today, and we're going to be working with spheres. The surface area formula is 4 times pi times the radius squared. Now, note that you must use the radius in the formula, and like usual, you've got to be careful, because sure enough, the diagrams may often show you the diameter. And for most of these, you're going to be finding the surface area to the nearest unit, which means to the nearest ones place. Let's look at example A. First of all, we note that we have a sphere with a radius of 10 inches. My formula says 4 pi r squared. So my surface area is going to be 4. I'm going to keep that pi. My radius is 10. This one really doesn't require a calculator until the very last step, because 10 times 10 is 100, and 100 times 4 is 400. We usually do write a step in there in terms of pi, so 400 pi. Then we get out the calculator and put 400 times pi. When you round off, it should be 1,257. Remember, we're working with surface area here, and this is where you've got to be careful, because they're constantly switching you back and forth lately, it seems like, from surface area to volume. Area is always square units, volume is always cubed or cubic units. So you've got to be careful about what you're talking about or how you're answering your question. Let's look at our next example. This is actually example B. Note here that 5.5 meters is the diameter. Divide 5.5 by 2 to get the radius of 2.75 meters. Now we're going to work with the surface area formula, which is 4 pi r squared. Surface area is going to equal to 4 times pi, and here we're going to put in 2.75 times 2.75. Now, yes, this one is a calculator problem. We're going to take, I would start with the 2.75 times 2.75, or use my x squared key, and then times 4. That will give you 30.25 pi. And I'm out of room here, so I'm going to go underneath. Then I would take 30.25 times pi, round off to the nearest whole number. You're going to get 95 meters squared. Now, the volume formula for a sphere is pretty similar in some ways to its surface area. You still have the 4, only this time you have 4/3, and it's pi times the radius cubed. Since we're working with volume, which is cubic units, we're going to take that radius times itself 3 different times. So if we're going to write down 4/3 pi r cubed, and again, you've got to be very careful. Did they give me radius or did they give me diameter in my drawing? They gave me the radius here, so that's going to be 10 times 10 times 10, which happens to be 1,000. Now for these, they really don't go and express them in terms of pi. They are going to take, if it's me, I'm going to take 10 times 10 times 10 times my pi key, and then I am going to take that times 4/3 by using my fraction key. And you should come up with 4,189. Oops, and then I wrote it wrong. Sorry about that. 4,189 inches cubed. Now, if it's me, I'm going to take that radius, which is 10. I'm going to use my power key, which if you have a 30xa is x to the y. Then I'm going to put in 3. Then I'm going to take times, this is my key, then I'm going to put in pi, and then I'm going to put in x again for multiply, and then I'm going to put my 4, and I'm going to use my fraction key, which is that a, b/c. Now this actually is a mixed number, and then the 3, and then press equals. And you should come out to 4,189 when you round off. Now you can do it in another order too. You could actually take 4 fraction key 3 times pi times 10 power key 3 equals, and you should get the same answer. So hit pause if you need to and try it out, which works best for you. Otherwise, moving on, this time you have to note that, okay, they have given me a diameter. So you have got to take 5.5 divided by 2, and that's going to come out to 2.75. We did that in an earlier example. Now my volume formula says 4/3 pi r cubed. And I'm going to hit that 2.75, 2.75, 2.75. Now, an alternate way of doing it to what I showed you before was to put the 4, then your fraction key, 3, then hit the times key, then I would probably hit pi, I would hit the times key again, and then I would either put in 2.75 times 2.75, or what you can do is put in 2.75, hit your power key, 3, and then equals. Now remember, if you have an x, a 30, your power key is x to the y. Now, again, try that. Hit pause, try it. You should come out to 87 meters cubed when you round off to the nearest unit. Okay, so what are they usually going to ask me? They're going to ask you to put it together. They're going to ask you, they're going to show you a sphere and say, okay, here it is, here's the sphere. Now find the surface area, and then find the volume to the nearest whole unit. It really doesn't matter which one you do, but as long as they say surface area first, that's where I'm going to go. So surface area, and I would probably note it that I'm going to find surface area is 4 pi r squared. So surface area is going to be 4 times pi. Now my radius here is going to be 12. And it's up to you if you want to put it in terms of pi. They don't often with spheres. Otherwise, it's going to be something like 144 times 4, which is going to be 6, 7, I don't know, something like 576 pi. But you don't really have to if you don't want to. They're not as, they don't go to pi as often with spheres as they do with cylinders and cones. Here you're going to get 1,810. Now remember, you're working with area, so it's got to be feet squared. Now you're going to find volume. Volume equals 4/3 pi r cubed. So volume is going to be 4/3 pi, and my radius here is going to be 12 times 12 times 12. Now yes, this is definitely a calculator problem. Although you know how my brain works, I'm going to look to cancel. So for me, I would cancel this 3 with one of these 12s. Now you can only cancel it with one of the 12s because you only have one free. So if you want to do that, you know, if you note that, hey, my radius can be divided by 3, fine, but remember, you can only cancel the 3 with one of the radii. Now I'm going to get 16 times 12 times 12, and I should get 7,238 feet cubed. Now again, you should be hitting pause, and you should be putting that into your calculator yourself so that you are getting practice doing that. Then if you're having trouble, if you're stuck for some reason, then you better come and get some help from me. So that is the conclusion of Chapter 9.7b. Please reply with trombone. Scouting out.